Today we're here. Dwight's with me, and my name is Max, by the way, if you have not listened.
Not Kelsey.
Not Kelsey.
This is Kelsey with hair. Long hair.
Long hair. Red beard. And this is Dwight with white hair.
Yeah, no beard.
Hey.
Beard looked like Santa Claus.
Yeah. Anyway, today we're talking hope. At least I hope we are. But I had a thought, and this is it's coming out of a few different conversations I've had with people recently. Might make sense, it might not, but I do know that, sometimes it's like, how do I move forward? Where do I place my hope? Who do I place my hope in? Those are some of the questions, I think we all ask ourselves, especially if you're new or especially if you have not had faith in Jesus before. But, coming into Easter, Jesus died on the cross for us, for everyone, actually. No one's exempt from that. And when we're willing to place our hope in him, essentially, and follow him, that is where our hope becomes placed in, basically. But as I was pondering some of these things, how do I go further in that? How do I know for sure that hope is real? A few people put it to me like this, that it's like, just get to know God. So how do I get to know God? Question, but how do I get to know you? I have to spend time with you in order to do that. So spending time in God's word, but it just it's a simple thought, simple thing, but for me, it just carried a lot of depth, because if I don't know God for real, how can I know that he can actually provide that hope, that hope in my life, essentially. So anyway, that was just a thought, a couple questions that came to mind. So,
yeah. Max, what is hope?
It's the assurance of things. No, that's fit. I was going to a different verse. Hope is something that we we wish, essentially, we really want this to happen, or it's essentially, it's something we're longing for to happen in our life. It's a positive, or
I would say that's how the world uses it.
That's kind of how I'm trying to paint that, so that we can set a standard.
Yeah. So in the scriptures, when you find it, it's not a wish, it's not a hope, it's not that we would say, or a longing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll often use that expression and say, I hope to get what I want to get done tomorrow. I hope that I'm able to go to town. I hope.
Yeah.
And
there's usually something missing there.
Yeah. And so in Scripture, it is a confident expectation.
Exactly.
It's not a wish. It's not a hope that we would use. It's not a wish and a prayer. It is this confident expectation. This confident expectation is in that what God has said, what God has promised, what God has said, he's going to deliver that.
It's real.
And so we think about the resurrection, and we think about the hope that we have in Jesus Christ. The wish, we can say with a wish, but no, this confident expectation that we have in Jesus Christ, and everything that is wrapped up in that. When you think about the resurrection, what does the resurrection guarantee? And so I think we want to look at John chapter 13, John chapter 14 in that. And so in John chapter number 13, it's an interesting passage, because Jesus has just said to his disciples, my hour has come.
Mm-hmm.
And we go back to John chapter number 2, rather, when Jesus does the first miracle.
Yep.
Mary comes to him, and his mother Mary, and comes to him, and she says, they're running out of wine, and Jesus goes, what's that to me?
Yeah.
my hour is not yet come.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you're going through the Gospel of John, you'll come to this expression, my hour is not yet come, my hour is not yet come. And then all of a sudden you're into chapter 13, and he says to his disciples, my hour has come.
Yeah, right.
And what he's referring to, and he's given them snippets
Yeah.
throughout, as you're going through the Gospel of John, he's given them snippets that he's going to be leaving, but they can't believe that yet. They're not ready for that yet. Chapter number 13, he tells them that his hour's come, and that's the crucifixion, that he's going to die. And their response to that is that, no, you can't leave us.
Yeah.
Because remember, they left everything to follow him.
Yeah, and he's trying to basically, if I'm not mistaken, teach them, show them where to place their faith and why, and how to live this in the mid, so that they can have that hope that's not missing something.
Yeah, and so
we're not at the end of that story yet, but
yeah, so the confident expectation that they have, and when he tells them that, immediately, this overwhelming sadness hits them.
Yeah,
and maybe almost an overwhelming sense that they're going to be forsaken, they're going to be abandoned because they've given up everything. They've been following him for 3.5 years. When he said to them to follow me,
I think that's going to be for the rest of their life.
The rest of the life, and what's it going to lead to?
Yeah.
What were they thinking, Max? That this was actually going to lead
the kingdom.
to?
It's going to set the kingdom. It's going to be a slow progression, or else you're just going to set it up. But they can only see that from the world's perspective because they've only experienced that, and everything's coming to a head, basically.
Yeah.
It's coming to a head.
Oh, absolutely, but not in the way that they thought.
But not yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very excellent, Max. And so with that sense of that they're being abandoned, sense that they're being forsaken, but also the sense this is the death of their dreams.
Yeah.
Right?
So how can they be confident in that?
How can they be confident? And that's where you enter into chapter number 14, because it seems strange. Jesus says to them in John chapter 14, verse 1, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. Yeah. And then he enters into this, and he says, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you.
Yeah.
And he says, I go and prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you,
I will come again.
I will. What does that mean?
That means he's coming back.
Yeah, but what does he have to do first?
He has to go away.
Absolutely. He has to leave them. And so he says, let not your heart be troubled. And that's an interesting word in the Greek. And because we look at it and we're trying to wrestle with that. What does that really mean if my heart is troubled? And the picture of that comes out of that in the Greek is the idea of an ocean that the waves just keep throwing up onto shore, one after another, and particularly after a storm is hit. Right. And so whatever's out in the seas is being thrown up onto the shore. And so inside of them, they have this feeling that they're being forsaken, and it just it just keeps coming up over and over and over again. And so he says, don't let your heart be like that, troubled.
Yeah.
And
I love the Greek because Greek, Hebrew, like just when you go back to the older text, it brings out so much more depth than the English language. Not that there's anything wrong with the English language, but it brings up way more different, like a fuller perspective.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And so he says, let not your heart be troubled. And as he's entering in that, what is the hope, that confident expectation that they will have in light of that? So what's he promised them? What do they have a hope in right here? And what does the resurrection of Jesus guarantee? And so think through that. John chapter 14, 1-3.
Yeah.
And he goes and he says that, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in me, believe in you believe in the God, believe also in me. Yeah. And then he says to them, in my Father's house are many mansions. So what's wrapped up in that?
means there's a house, many mansions, which means people are going to live there. But then he proceeds on to say, well, maybe I shouldn't go there yet, but yeah, there's going to be people there. I mean,
eternity.
Yes,
right.
100%.
Eternity's all wrapped up in that, Max.
And the one thing I like next, because he leads right into that, is because they question him and like, well, we don't know where you're going, but then he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And basically, anybody that wants to see the Father has to come through me. So, following in his footsteps, basically what he's laid out for us through his life with the disciples, following in that is going to lead to that.
Yeah. So they've got a hope. Let's talk about this confident expectation, and because we're leading up the resurrection of Jesus Christ. He said, "I'm going away," and so he's going to death.
Yeah.
And
which he didn't tell them he was dying, I don't think. He just said going away.
Yeah.
I guess
here he does, but back in chapter 13, he's now getting pretty specific about his death. And they may not know his crucifixion. They may not know all of that. I'm just trying to think through chapter 13 here in my mind, and the purpose isn't getting all of that specifics out. But this whole death thing, and so... But they're still thinking that death is final.
Yeah. Well, they've never seen. Well, they have seen Lazarus. They've seen somebody raised from the dead, but we all easily forget.
So let me introduce something in your thoughts there. So John chapter 11, I think, and this fits in beautifully for where we are. Martha comes. She meets Jesus first. And so Jesus says to her, I am the resurrection and the life.
Right.
He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Max, it's easy to believe in the resurrection when the resurrection is standing beside you, when Jesus is standing beside you. But when the resurrection has been crucified, when the resurrection is in the grave, you know, the one, you know the resurrection is possible, but Jesus is the resurrection. He's the one that has raised the dead, right?
Yeah.
So it's quite different.
Yeah.
Because when he's the one that's in the grave, so you think, well, the hope of the resurrection has now died.
Yeah. So it's gone.
So, you know, they've seen Jesus raise the dead, but now the one who is dead has to be raised to life.
Yeah.
And that guarantees everything, but they're still not, they're not there yet.
Yeah.
They're in this place where if he dies, it's over.
Yeah.
Every hope, every promise, every part that Jesus has told them about, he's dead, that's gone.
Yeah.
And so when he's saying this, he's telling them that I'm going away, and that's twofold. Well, the first time he's going to go away, he's going to die, go into the grave. Then he's going to be resurrected and appear unto them, commission them, tell them to go into all of the world, and then he's going to go away again. And that's where we get this promise that if I go away, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. But that guarantees every single promise, and it guarantees his resurrection, guarantees all of that.
Yeah, totally. And I think we're out of time on this one, but I just want to end with one last thought coming out of that, the guarantee part, because that's essentially where our hope lies. Because if we don't have that, if he did not rise again, there's no hope. But you said something in the past, and if he saves himself, he cannot save us.
And there's more in that. Let's close with this.
Yes.
We'll go into it right into the next episode.
Exactly. Yep. So we will be back. So stay tuned. Part 2 of this. Anyway, hope lives. Truth be told. Have a wonderful night, and God bless.